I was 27 when my orders came down. Coordinates instead of the name. A point lost somewhere in the Aleutian chain. That alone should have told me something. No mission brief, no hazard notice, no reason why 4 Army reservists were being flown out to a forgotten corner of the North Pacific. Just a set of digits, a cold wind, and a promise that it'd be quick. The flight out was hours of gray sky pressing against gray sea, nothing to break the horizon except the slow churn of clouds. When the island finally appeared beneath us, it didn't look alive, it looked wounded. Jagged black cliffs rose straight from the surf, sliced through with deep symmetrical cracks that looked carved instead of natural. Then I saw the shapes squatting along the coast, half-buried Quonset huts, skeletal gun emplacements, the jagged outline of a bunker gouged into the rock itself. The pilot banked low once, the rotors throwing snow and grit into the air, and through the haze I spotted a lintel above the bunker mouth. Moss and frost clung to the concrete, but through the grime you could still read the stamp, USED 1943. Calloway, our sergeant, shouted over the rotor wash. Corps of Engineers. Hell of a relic. Reeves just laughed, said, looks like a retirement home for ghosts. The pilot didn't smile. He kept one hand on the throttle, eyes scanning the cliffs like he was counting the ways out. We touched down for less than half a minute on a flat patch of ice that could barely hold the skids. Before we even finished unbuckling, the pilot leaned out and yelled, don't stay long. Locals say this place eats men. Then he lifted off, leaving us choking in the rotor wash, the sound fading fast until there was only the wind and that hollow island waiting. The silence settled wrong. You'd expect gulls, waves, the far bark of seals, but there was nothing. Just the wind threading through rusted metal and the endless stare of the bunker. We dragged our gear toward the least collapsed hut and shoved open the door. Inside smelled like rust and rot, mildew thick enough to taste. The bunks were sagging skeletons, the paint peeled in long curls, and the floor groaned like it resented our weight. I tossed my pack into a corner and told myself the smell would fade. Carter tried to break the tension with a grin. Feels like we're camping in a coffin, he said. Nobody laughed. Dusk came fast out there, like someone dimmed the world by flipping a switch. One moment there was a smear of daylight, the next there was nothing but dark. We lit a lantern, its glow throwing nervous shadows across the cracked walls. The wind picked up, whistling through holes in the roof, and for a while we just sat listening, letting the sound fill the silence. Then it came, a metallic clang so the people of the grass which dispelled the kid would be the genius. Another clang followed, heavier, deeper, echoing through the frozen ground until the walls vibrated. Carter's whisper was thin. That came from the bunker. Reeves pressed an ear to the wall, eyes narrowing. Holloway raised his rifle, scanning the doorway like he expected something to crawl through it. We waited for the third strike, but none came. The island fell quiet again, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Metal shifting in cold air, old structures settling, but the sound had carried weight, purpose. When Holloway finally spoke, his voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. Nobody leaves the hut tonight. That's an order. Reeves forced a smirk. Hell of a welcome party. He tried to sound amused, but his knuckles were white around his rifle. Carter just curled into a sleeping bag, staring at the lamp. I sat there pretending to relax, every nerve tuned to the storm, every creak of the timbers twisting tighter in my chest. The hours dragged. Wind screamed against the walls, the lantern guttered, and then the radio on the table hissed to life. At first it was just static, a faint whisper under the storm. Then the noise began to pulse, short bursts, then long ones repeating in a deliberate rhythm. Holloway leaned close, brow furrowed. That's Morse, he muttered. Reeves barked a dry laugh. Out here? From who? The pattern repeated again and again. 3 shorts, 3 longs, 3 shorts. Carter's voice shook when he said it. It's spelling something. 6. The word hit harder than it should have. 6. Repeated over and over like a heartbeat. Holloway killed the radio, but the silence afterward felt heavier than the signal. For a while, none of us moved. Eventually, fatigue dragged me halfway toward sleep, that strange edge where your body goes numb but your mind won't stop watching. I jolted awake to Carter gripping my shoulder, eyes wide. I saw someone, he hissed. Outside, my heart kicked. Someone. He nodded toward the black window, lantern light, heading into the bunker. Reeves cursed under his breath, already reaching for his rifle. Holloway's jaw tightened. He looked at Carter, searching for any sign of doubt, but the kid's face said enough. Fear like that doesn't fake easy. We check it, Holloway decided. We can't ignore it. The wind cut at our faces as we crossed the yard, our boots crunching over snow crusted like glass. Every breath came out in ghostly clouds. The bunker loomed larger with every step, the darkness around its mouth swallowing the light from our lamps. Then I saw them, footprints in the snow, clear, human, leading straight to the bunker door. But halfway there, they stopped. No scuffle, no turn, no retreat, just gone. The door that had been welded shut for half a century hung slightly open, a thin crack spilling cold air that smelled like old metal and something sweet, almost electric. Carter whispered, "Told you." Holloway stood there a long moment, eyes locked on that slit of black. The wind howled, carrying the distant echo of the sea grinding the cliffs below. Finally, he said, "Not tonight." None of us argued. We turned back, the sense of something watching us pressing against our backs. When we shut the hut door, Reeves bolted it and slid down the wall, breathing hard. No one spoke. We didn't have to. We all knew it. The island wasn't empty. Whatever had lived there once hadn't left. We tried pretending that morning would fix it, that daylight could wash away what we'd felt during that first night, but the cold light only made everything worse. The island didn't thaw, it just revealed more scars. The storm had passed, but the air stayed heavy, the kind of cold that burns your lungs when you breathe. Snow lay untouched across the yard, except for our tracks, and those half-finished prints that vanished mid-stride near the bunker door. Nobody mentioned them, but every time one of us glanced that way, our eyes lingered too long. Holloway broke the silence with orders. Busy work meant control. We sweep the place, log what we can, then call it in, he said. We don't make assumptions, and we don't separate. His voice was clipped, trying to sound official, but I could hear the strain under it. Reeves muttered something about this being a bad idea, and Carter just nodded without looking up. The bunker waited above us like a bad thought we couldn't shake. Its doorway was still cracked open, blacker than shadow, rimmed with frost that glittered like teeth. We split to pairs. The bank purpose wouldn't match up against it. Holloway took Carter to check the gun emplacements along the cliff, while Reeves and I were sent to the mess hall ruins. The place was half collapsed, metal beams bent like bones under snow. The old tin roof caved in decades ago. The smell of rust and oil hung thick in the air, sour and old. I kicked through debris, half hoping to find nothing at all. Then I saw it, a crumpled field dressing half buried beneath a twisted cot. The fabric was yellowed with age, but the stain spreading across it was dark and fresh. Not rust, not rot, blood. I called Reeves over. He squatted beside me, lifted it between two fingers, and stared at the dark patch. "That's recent," he said quietly. "No more than a year." He dropped it like it burned him. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. The thought of someone else being here, someone bleeding, felt wrong, impossible. This island wasn't on any map, wasn't in any briefing, and the nearest settlement was over 100 miles away. Whoever had bled here hadn't come for shelter. They'd come for something else. Reeves finally shook his head. "Someone's been living here," he muttered, though his tone said he didn't believe it either. When we regrouped at the bunker, the wind had died to a low moan crawling over the cliffs. Holloway's face looked gray in the light. "We heard hammering," he said flatly, like someone building inside. Carter spoke up, voice cracking. "We need to call this in. We're not equipped for squatters or whatever this is." Reeves barked a short, angry laugh. "Squatters? Out here? You think some drifters tapping Morse code and bleeding on medical packs for fun?" The argument flared fast, fear slipping into anger. Holloway snapped, "Enough." He rubbed a hand over his face, eyes darting toward the bunker. "We can't raise command. We stick to orders, observe, document, wait for pickup." He barely finished before it started again. That sound. 3 slow, hollow strikes rolling out from deep inside the bunker, each one echoing across the snow and into our bones. Once, twice, 3 times. We froze, rifles up, scanning the black slit of the entrance like idiots trying to aim at a nightmare. Reeves whispered, "That's from below. Christ, it's under us." The noise stopped, but the silence that followed carried its own pressure, thick and waiting. My breath fobbed in front of me, heart hammering. Holloway finally whispered, "Back to the hut." We moved fast, feet crunching over ice, the sound of our own movement deafening against the stillness. Every step felt like walking in a dream you can't wake from, where something's just behind you, but you can't turn around. Inside the hut, Reeves bolted the door and dropped to the floor. "We're being hunted," he said. Carter's voice shook. "By who?" Reeves looked at him, really looked, like he wanted to believe it was a joke, but there was nothing to joke about. "I saw a face last night," he said softly. "Gas mask, in the bugger window. Someone's watching us." I wanted to argue, tell him it was a trick of a light, but the words wouldn't come, because I'd seen it too. Just for a second, a reflection, a movement, but enough to know he wasn't lying. The day crawled by in a haze of waiting. The wind picked up again by dusk, the kind of storm that rattled metal and made the walls pulse. We sat in lantern light, eating cold rations that tasted like nothing, all of us pretending this was normal. Every creak in the roof made us flinch. Around 11, the sound started, soft at first, like something heavy being dragged through snow. We looked at each other, no one wanting to be the first to move. Then the dragging circled the hut, slow, deliberate. Holloway lifted his rifle, voice a harsh whisper. "Stay still." Reeves crawled to the window, peered through the crack in the frame. His breath fogged the glass, and he froze mid-breath. "It's standing there," he whispered. My stomach turned. "What is?" He didn't look away. "A soldier," he said. "Helmet, gas mask, just standing." The rest of us rushed to the window, but when I looked out, there was nothing, just snow and shifting shadows. Reeves swore quietly, voice shaken. I swear to God it was there. We sat in silence, fear a living thing between us. Then Carter bent to pull on his boots and stopped. "They're gone," he whispered. We tore the place apart, but he was right. His boots were nowhere. 30 minutes later, Holloway found them outside the door, standing upright in the snow, perfectly aligned, filled with ice. Carter wouldn't touch them. He just stared, whispering, "Someone's playing with us." That was when the radio screamed to life again. Static so sharp it burned the air. Voices followed, dozens of them, overlapping, whispering names and ranks and numbers like a roll call for the dead. I clamped my hands over my ears, but the sound crawled under my skin. Reeves shouted, "Shut it off," but Holloway didn't move. One of the old floodlights flickered to life, buzzing weakly, and under it stood 4 men in full WH uniforms, helmets, coats, boots, standing in formation, motionless. Their faces were nothing but black shadow beneath the brims. Reeves shouted, "Contact!" and raised his rifle. The instant he did, the light died, plunging us back into darkness. The next sound was doors slamming, one after another, across the entire base. Bang, 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 like the island itself was closing every way out. Holloway's voice broke through, hoarse. "Fall back, move!" And we ran, the storm swallowing us whole. We didn't think, we just ran. The storm tore across the compound, snow whipping sideways and blinding sheets as we stumbled through the drifts, slipping over frozen debris and rusted beams that jutted out of the ground like the ribs of some long-dead machine. The island was alive with noise now, doors slamming in succession, the deep groan of wind funneling through the bunkers, the clang of loose metal carried by the gale, until it all blended into one long, unholy roar. Reeves was ahead of me, shouting something I couldn't hear. Carter tripped, went down hard, and Holloway grabbed his collar, dragging him up by sheer panic. None of us stopped until the bunker loomed in front of us again, its cracked doorway gaping open like a wound in the rock. I don't know if we meant to run toward it or if our bodies just moved on instinct, away from the open snow, away from the floodlight that had blinked out. But suddenly we were inside, boots hammering against concrete, flashlights swinging wildly across the walls. The air inside was different, thicker, colder, wet like a cellar that had never known daylight. Our lights cut across frozen pipes, corroded switchboards, and faded stenciled warnings in red paint. "This way," Holloway ordered, though his voice had lost all certainty. We followed him deeper, our beams catching on metal drums, collapsed wiring, old wooden crates stenciled with dates from 1943. Then it came, the pounding, deep, rhythmic, metallic. It reverberated through the walls, traveling up through the floor, through our boots, into our bones. Reeves spun in a circle, his flashlight sweeping over sealed blast doors. "It's below us," he said. "Something's in the lower level." The sound hit again, 3 heavy strikes that shook dust loose from the ceiling. Carter screamed, "It's coming through," and fired 3 rounds at the nearest door. The shots thundered through the corridor, echoing like cannon fire, but the door didn't move. The pounding only grew louder. I could feel it now, each strike like a heartbeat out of sync with my own. Then, over the noise, Holloway's radio shrieked, static first, then voices, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, layered together, shouting call signs, ranks, serial numbers, a wall of sound that filled the corridor like a flood. Reeves dropped his rifle and clutched his head, screaming, "Make it stop." I pressed my palms over my ears, but the voices were inside me, vibrating in my skull, crawling through my chest. Carter fell to his knees, sobbing, "They're calling roll, they're calling our names." The pounding reached a final, deafening strike, so strong the floor shook under us and a crack stood across the concrete wall. Then silence, Complete, suffocating silence. Not even the storm outside could be heard. For one suspended heartbeat, the air felt wrong, like the whole bunker was inhaling. "Move," Holloway snapped, grabbing Reeves by the collar. "Out, now." We bolted back through the corridor, boots slipping on ice, gear clanging against the walls. I don't remember hitting the doorway, only the cold that slammed into me as we burst into the storm again. We didn't look back. Holloway shouted something over the wind. "Go, leave it," and we did. We left the hut, the bunker, half our packs, and every ounce of sanity behind. The snow was a blinding white wall, erasing everything more than a few feet away. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like dead weight, until I thought I'd collapse. When I finally dared to glance behind me, I saw them, small pinpricks of light lining the cliffside, dozens of them, moving in perfect rhythm. Lanterns. My brain refused to process it at first, thought they were reflections, flares, anything but what they were. But they moved together, swaying side to side, as if carried by unseen hands. "Keep moving," Holloway's voice cut through the wind. Reeves stumbled beside me, gasping. "They're following." Carter was crying now, a hoarse, broken sound swallowed by the storm. We didn't stop until we hit the remains of an old generator shack, half buried in snow. Holloway shoved the door open, forcing us inside, then dragged a rusted metal sheet across the entrance. The space was barely big enough for the four of us, dark except for the faint glow of a dying lantern. My chest heaved, lungs on fire. Carter curled in a corner, rocking, whispering, "They're still coming, they're still coming." Reeves sat opposite him, staring at nothing, his rifle shaking in his hands. Holloway crouched near the door, checking his sidearm with fingers that wouldn't stay steady. "We waited out," he said. "No one moves until daylight," but even he didn't sound like he believed it. The wind screamed through the cracks in the walls, snow swirling in, piling against our boots. Somewhere outside, something groaned, metal dragged over stone, slow and deliberate. Reeves flinched with every sound. "They're out there," he whispered. "Oh, they're waiting." I pressed my back to the cold wall and listened. I could hear it too, the faint hum of a generator that shouldn't have worked, the whisper of boots crunching in the snow, circling the shack. Then, silence. The hours bled together. My thoughts blurred, my body numb, except for the steady thump of my heartbeat. Sometime near dawn, Reeves stirred, his voice barely a rasp. "You hear it?" he asked. I didn't answer. He was staring at the door, eyes glassy. "It's whispering," he said. "Names. Ours." Holloway snapped. "Quiet," but it was too late. The wind shifted, and through it came a low, rhythmic sound, like a voice filtered through static, saying something over and over in a pattern too deliberate to be random. I held my breath and counted. 6. 6 again. Then nothing. We waited for the next one, but it didn't come. Reeves let out a shaking laugh. It sounded more like a sob. "They won't stop until sunrise," he muttered. "You'll see." No one spoke after that. The cold chewed through our gear, through our skin. My fingers were stiff. My teeth ached from clenching. I stared at the lantern flame until it flickered out and left us in total dark. For a while I thought I could hear the pounding again, faint and far below, like the island had a heartbeat of its own. When light finally crept through the cracks in the wall, gray and thin, I wasn't sure if I'd slept at all. Outside, the storm had eased, but the world still looked dead, quiet, frozen, untouched except for the faint line of our tracks leading from the bunker. Holloway pried open a sheet blocking the doorway, peered out, then motioned us forward. His face looked hollowed out, his eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. "We set a signal fire," he said. Now, no one argued. The idea of staying another night on that island was worse than dying in the cold. The storm had broken by morning, but the silence it left behind was worse. The air hung heavy, too still, too perfect, like the island was waiting to exhale. Pale light filtered through the fog, and the sea below looked like molten lead, motionless and endless. We stumbled out of the shack, every step stiff from the cold, in the long night of not sleeping. Carter's face was ghost white, his lips cracked and bleeding. Reeves wouldn't look at anyone, just kept glancing over his shoulder at the cliffs, muttering to himself. Holloway barked orders more out of habit than authority, his voice ragged. "Signal fire. Gear check. Stay close." We gathered what dry wood we could find from the half-collapsed huts and splintered crates. Our hands shook as we struck the flares, and the first weak flames struggled against the wind before finally catching. The smell of burning fuel mixed with salt air and decay, a smell that made my stomach twist. We stood in a loose circle around the fire, pretending the light made us safe. Reeves crouched, tossing broken scraps into the flames, his eyes reflecting the orange glow. "They'll see us," he said. "They'll find us." His voice was flat, not hopeful, more like a warning. Carter looked at him, voice shaking. Who? Command? Reeves turned his head slowly, eyes bloodshot. No, he said. Them. Holloway snapped. Cut it out. But even he didn't sound convinced. We waited for hours, scanning the horizon for the chop of rotors, the sight of a bird cutting through the haze. Nothing came. The wind started again, soft at first, then rising, carrying a low hum that didn't sound like weather. It came from the cliffs, the same place where we'd seen those lights. Reeves froze, listening. You hear that? It was faint, but real. Voices, not words, just the murmur of many people speaking at once, carried on the wind. My stomach knotted. Holloway's jaw clenched. Pack up, he said. We're heading to the coast. Maybe we'll get a signal closer to the water. He didn't wait for an answer. We stamped out the fire and started toward the edge of the island, following the broken trail between rusted structures and snow-drowned trenches. The farther we went, the louder the wind seemed to breathe, like it was pushing us toward something. I kept glancing back at the bunker. The door was open wider now. I swear it hadn't been when we left it. The dark inside was bottomless, a throat swallowing the last of the light. Halfway down the slope, Reeves stopped. Look, he whispered. The snow near the bunker entrance had shifted. Not footprints, drag marks. Long, curved grooves that started at the door and disappeared under the drift. Holloway didn't look back. Keep moving, he said, but I could see his hand tightening around his rifle. The trail to the shore wound between concrete pillboxes and the remains of old storage sheds. Some had collapsed into black pits. Others still stood, their walls etched with frost and old graffiti. It felt like walking through a graveyard for machines. When we reached the cliffs, we could see the frozen shoreline stretching for miles. The sea was rougher here, waves breaking against the rocks in slow, thunderous rhythm. Holloway set up the beacon, fumbling with frozen fingers, cursing under his breath. Reeves and I climbed a nearby outcrop to check for line of sight. From there we could see the island laid out below us. Broken huts, skeletal towers, and the bunker sitting like a tumor at the center. That's when I saw them again. Lanterns, not flickering randomly this time, lined up along the ridgeline, perfectly spaced, glowing faint through the fog. I blinked, hoping it was reflection, some trick of light. It wasn't. They moved, not swaying this time, not slow, marching. A line of lights crossing the upper plateau, steady as clockwork. Reeves saw it too. He grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. We're leaving, he said. Now. We slid down the slope, shouting for Holloway and Carter. Holloway was still by the beacon, twisting the transmitter, while Carter crouched by the cliff, staring into the water. His face looked hollow. Something's down there, he said softly. I followed his gaze. Between the rocks below, the surf boiled unnaturally, like something was shifting beneath the surface. Pack it up, Holloway barked. We're moving to higher ground. But before we could take a step, the beacon's light flickered. Once, twice, then died. A sharp pop sounded from the device, followed by the faint hiss of static. The radio on Holloway's chest crackled alive again. The same staring pattern we'd heard nights ago. 3 shorts, 3 longs, 3 shorts. Reeves shouted, "Kill it!" But Holloway froze. Through the static came a voice, broken, distant, but unmistakably human. "Stay!" The word stretched, worked by the signal, drawn out like a command. Carter stumbled back, shaking his head. "We have to go," he said. The wind picked up again, howling now, drowning our shouts. Reeves grabbed the beacon, slung it over his shoulder, and started running. We followed. Snow blinded us, the world dissolving into white. I don't know how long we ran, minutes, maybe hours, before we saw the outlines of the base again. The fire pit we'd left smoldered faintly, and for a second it looked like safety. Then the ground trembled beneath our boots. Not the wind, not thunder. The island itself was moving. A deep groan rose from below, low and endless, like the earth grinding its teeth. The snow at our feet shifted. Holloway yelled for us to spread out, but there was nowhere to go. The sound built into a vibration that rattled our teeth, and then silence. The wind stopped. The sea went still. For a heartbeat, the world froze mid-breath. And then the radio spoke again. Not static this time, not Morse. Words. "Roll call," it said. "All units, present." Reeves screamed, "Shut it off!" But before Holloway could move, every radio on our packs lit up, speakers bursting with layered voices, reciting names, old names, names we didn't know. The list went on, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, rising in unison until it wasn't voices anymore. It was one sound, a single monstrous drone that made my vision blur. I dropped to my knees, hands over my ears, but it was inside me now, vibrating in my skull, my chest, my blood. Carter was screaming. Reeves was shouting prayers. Holloway fired his rifle into the snow, over and over, as if bullets could kill sound. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The radios were dead again. The only sound left was our breathing and the wind starting to move, soft and slow, like nothing had happened at all. The silence after the radios died was unbearable. None of us spoke, not even Holloway. The air felt charged, too thick to breathe, humming with the echo of voices that had stopped but weren't really gone. Reeves crouched low, one hand over his mouth like he might vomit. Carter sat in the snow, staring at the ground, as though it would open up. The wind began to return, soft at first, sweeping through the ruins like a sigh. "We're leaving," Holloway said finally, his voice hoarse. "We'll move inland, find higher ground, wait for evac." No one argued. We were too far past argument. The island stretched around us in jagged black shapes, the fog curling through it like smoke from a dying fire. We trudged uphill toward the ridgeline, boots sinking into fresh snow that muffled everything but the pounding in our chests. My hands were numb around the rifle, my skin raw from the cold, and still I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. Every few seconds I glanced back, nothing but the white glow of the storm. But it wasn't empty. It felt inhabited, as if eyes were watching from just beyond the edge of visibility. The higher we climbed, the louder the wind screamed, carrying sounds that weren't quite words, fragmented syllables, radio chatter, the scrape of something dragging metal. Carter stumbled, grabbed my arm. "You hear that?" he whispered. I did, but I didn't answer, admitting it would make it real. Reeves muttered something under his breath, half prayer, half curse. When we reached the ridge, we stopped to catch our breath. Below us, the base was barely visible through the haze, but the bunker stood out, unmistakable, the door now gaping wide. From this distance, it looked like it was breathing. Holloway raised his binoculars, stared a long time, then lowered them slowly. "It's open," he said, and it wasn't the wind that did it. He didn't have to explain what he meant. The edges of the door glowed faintly, like heat shimmering on cold metal. Reeves took a step back. "We're done. We go to the shore, light flares, and we don't stop until that bird comes." "We already lit flares," Carter said. "They didn't come." "They will," Reeves snapped, though his voice cracked halfway through. The argument was cut short by a sound that didn't belong to any of us. A metallic clink, deliberate, close. We all froze. It came again, just over the rise behind us. Holloway gestured silently, and we dropped low, rifles ready. The snow muffled everything but the sound of breathing, ours, and something else. A figure crested the hill, moving slow, steady. For a second, my brain refused to process it. It wore a helmet, a gray coat, webbing, gear straight out of 1943. The man, or whatever he was, walked with mechanical precision, each step measured, boots sinking just enough to leave perfect prints. The face beneath the helmet was shadow, but the outline of a gas mask caught the light. Holloway whispered, "Hold." Reeves didn't. He fired once. The shot cracked through the air, echoing across the ridge. The figure jerked back, and then straightened again, unhurried, unbothered. It turned its head toward us, slow as if underwater. Holloway shouted, "Move." We ran, stumbling through the drifts, the sound of our own boots colliding with the wind. Behind us, the footsteps followed, steady, patient, not running, not chasing, just following. The slope descended sharply, and we half fell, half slid down the incline until the ground leveled near the old antenna field. Rusted poles jutted from the ice, wires tangled like veins. Holloway spun around, rifle raised, but there was nothing there, just the wind cutting through the frames. Reeves's breath came in ragged bursts. "Tell me you saw that," he gasped. "Tell me that was a person." "I don't know what that was," I said, and it was the truth. We regrouped near the remains of a communications tower. The sky had turned darker, clouds rolling in from the sea, erasing what little light was left. Holloway checked his watch. "We hold here till dawn," he said. "We can't navigate blind." None of us wanted to stay still, but our bodies couldn't fight anymore. We huddled near the base of the tower, our backs to the steel, rifles pointed outward. The cold was unbearable, seeping into bone. Reeves kept whispering, "They're not supposed to exist," like a mantra he couldn't stop. Carter's teeth chattered so hard I thought they might crack. Then, somewhere behind us, the radio clicked on again. Not the one on Holloway's vest, but the tower's receiver. It had no power, no battery, nothing that should have worked, but it hissed to life anyway. The old speaker crackling with low static that built into a rising whine. Holloway stared at it, lips parted. A voice came through, slow and calm. "All units, report. Reeves whispered. It's them. The voice repeated, louder. All units, report. Then the sound changed, like metal grinding, then whispering, then names. Our names, one by one. Reeves dropped his rifle, backing away. Carter covered his ears, shouting, "Stop it! Stop it!" I felt the words vibrating inside my skull, crawling down my spine. Holloway drew his pistol and fired 3 times into the receiver. The speaker exploded in sparks, the sound cutting off instantly. Smoke filled the air, the smell of burning wire mixing with the sharp tang of snow. We stood frozen, hearts hammering, the gunshots still echoing through the valley. Then, from somewhere far below, down near the bunker, a single sound rolled across the island. A clang, slow, heavy, familiar. Reeves whispered, "It's calling us back." None of us dared answer. Night swallowed the island again before we could move. The last scraps of daylight bled out of the fog, until there was nothing left but black sky and the faint ghost of our breath in the cold. We'd retreated into what was left of a maintenance tunnel below the tower. Just concrete, frost, and shadows. The wind outside screamed like something alive, slamming through the twisted metal above us. Carter sat against the wall, arms wrapped around his knees, whispering to himself. Reeves paced, boots scuffing against ice, his eyes flicking toward the tunnel mouth every few seconds like he expected someone, or something, to crawl in. Holloway crouched near the entrance, scanning the snow with his flashlight. I sat across from him, the weight of exhaustion pressing down harder than the cold. My hands still shook from the radio incident, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing on the ridge, the mask, the coat, the slow tilt of its head, as if it recognized me. "We can't stay here," Reeves said finally, voice cracked. "They'll find us." Holloway didn't look back. They already have. The wind howled through the opening, and for a second, I swore I heard voices in it. Thin, broken words carried across the cold. I gripped my rifle tighter. Reeves pressed his palms to his temples. "This place isn't real," he muttered. "It can't be. It's not on any map." The pilot didn't even... His words cut short. From somewhere deep in the tunnel, behind us, a soft metallic tapping began. Slow, measured. Holloway raised a hand, motioning for silence. The sound stopped. Then, 3 taps. A pause. 3 more. My throat went dry. Reeves whispered, "It's the same pattern." Holloway swung his light toward the darkness, but it barely touched the black ahead. The tunnel curved out of sight, a throat leading deeper into the mountain. The air coming from it was colder than outside, carrying a faint smell of oil and iron. "We move," Holloway said. "If it's coming from the other end, I want to know what we're dealing with." Carter shook his head violently. No, Sergeant. We stay here. We wait for daylight." "You think daylight changes what's down there?" Holloway snapped. "It doesn't." He checked his sidearm and started forward. I followed, though every nerve in me screamed to run the other way. Reeves came next, muttering curses under his breath, and Carter trailed reluctantly behind. The tunnel grew narrower as we descended, walls slick with condensation, frost crunching under our boots. Every few steps, the tapping started again, always ahead of us, always retreating just beyond the light. The deeper we went, the stronger that smell became. Old oil, rust, and something faintly sweet, like rotting fruit. My light caught faded stenciling on the wall. LVB, communication storage. The words looked half erased, but fresh footprints led straight past them. Human prints, not ours. Reeves noticed too. "Tell me we're not following someone," he whispered. No one answered. The tunnel widened suddenly into a large chamber. Rows of rusted filing cabinets lined the walls, their drawers hanging open, papers scattered across the floor, frozen into brittle curls. At the center of the room sat an old radio console, massive and half-collapsed, cables running into the floor. Holloway moved toward it slowly, scanning the shadows. "This shouldn't have power," he said, but the dials were glowing faintly green. Reeves took a step back. "Leave it," he hissed. Holloway reached out anyway and brushed a gloved hand across the panel. The lights flickered brighter. The speakers hissed. Then the same voice we heard before, calm, cold, deliberate, broke through the static. "All units present," it said. "Report casualties." Carter whimpered, backing toward the wall. Holloway froze, staring at the speaker. "Identify yourself," he barked. Silence. Then, faintly, a reply. "Unit 6. The light from the console flickered like a heartbeat. Reeves shoved past me, yanked the plug from the wall, but the sound didn't stop. It grew louder, rising into a storm of overlapping voices, dozens of them shouting coordinates, ranks, orders, each one drowning the other until the air itself seemed to vibrate. I dropped to one knee, clutching my head. The metal walls thrummed under my palms, pulsing in rhythm with the noise. Then, as fast as it began, it died. The lights went dark. Only our breathing filled the room. Holloway exhaled shakily. Back out. Now. We turned toward the tunnel, but Carter wasn't moving. He stood rigid, staring past us toward the far corner of the room. My being followed his gaze and froze. There, half collapsed under debris, were bodies. 4 of them, mummified by cold, uniforms still intact, 211 era insignia, faded but clear. The corpses were arranged in a perfect line, rifles at their sides, dog tags glinting faintly under frost. Reeves stepped closer, his voice a whisper. "Sergeant, look at their tags." Holloway leaned in, wiped the ice from one. The name burned into my mind. Reeves, D. He checked another. Holloway, M. Then another. Carter, J. The 4th one was mine. My heart stopped. "No," I breathed. "That's not possible." Reeves stumbled back, shaking his head violently. "No, no." The air shifted. Sudden pressure, like the room itself was closing in. A low hum filled the chamber, building fast. Holloway grabbed my arm, eyes wild. "Run." The radio console flickered back to life behind us, the green glow brightening until it burned white. "Report complete," the voice said. Then the world exploded into light and sound. When I came to, I was outside. The cold hit first, sharp enough to cut through my jacket, burning in my lungs like fire. The storm had died, but the island was different now. Silent, empty. The sky above was washed out gray, the kind that feels endless. I was lying in the snow near the cliff's edge, half buried, my rifle a few feet away. The others were scattered around me. Reeves was slumped against a rock, motionless but breathing, his face pale as paper. Carter knelt nearby, hands pressed over his ears, whispering something on repeat. Holloway stood a few yards away, staring toward the sea. His helmet was gone, hair matted with frost. He looked like he'd aged 20 years in a single hour. I forced myself upright, head pounding, every muscle screaming. "What happened?" I rasped. Holloway didn't turn. "It wasn't an explosion," he said quietly. "It was something else." I followed his gaze. The bunker entrance was gone, not caved in, gone. The entire structure had collapsed inward, leaving nothing but a pit of black rock, rimmed with steam. The snow around it had melted in a perfect circle. "Where's Reeves?" Carter's voice broke. I turned. Reeves was sitting now, staring at his hands. They were covered in blood, his, I think, but he didn't seem to notice. "They called my name," he whispered, over and over. Holloway's radio crackled suddenly, faint but unmistakable. Static, then a voice I'd heard too many times to mistake. "Unit 6, status report." Holloway yanked the radio off his vest and hurled it into the snow. It hissed, then went silent. He looked back at us, eyes hollow. "We're leaving. Now." None of us questioned it. We gathered what little we had left and started for the shoreline. The path back cut through the heart of the base. The huts were half buried under snow, roofs caved in, the antenna tower bent like a broken spine. The air felt heavier with every step, the wind carrying faint whispers that rose and fell like breathing. At one point, I looked back toward the ridge and froze. The lanterns were there again, dozens of them, lining the cliffs, swaying in perfect rhythm. They weren't moving toward us this time. They just stood still, a silent formation. Holloway caught my look and said nothing. We all knew we couldn't survive another night here. When we reached the shore, the sea was rough, gray waves hammering the rocks. Holloway fired a flare into the sky, our last one. It arced high, bursting into red light that bled through the mist. We waited. Minutes passed. Then, faintly, the distant thrum of rotors. I could have cried. The helicopter emerged from the fog like a ghost, skimming low over the water. As it hovered above us, snow whipped into spirals, and the wash of the blades drowned everything else. The crew chief leaned out, shouting, "Beacon confirmed. We saw your flare last night." I froze. Last night? We hadn't fired one until now. Holloway looked at me, his face draining of color. "Tell him he started, but his voice cracked. The crew chief frowned, motioning us aboard. We didn't argue. We hauled Reeves first, half conscious, still murmuring names, then Carter, then the packs. I climbed in last, turning back one final time. The cliffs looked empty, but I knew better. The lanterns had faded into the mist, but faint shapes remained, silhouettes standing shoulder to shoulder, watching us leave. The bird lifted off, and the island dropped away beneath us, swallowed by fog. The farther we flew, the lighter the air felt, but something stayed with me, a weight behind the eyes, a hum in my chest. None of us spoke. Reeves sat with his head down, lips moving silently. Carter stared out the window, eyes wide and unblinking. Holloway just stared at the radio on the floor between his boots, its light dead, but still ticking faintly, like a heartbeat. When we landed back at base, medics rushed Reeves and Carter away. I followed Holloway into the debrief room, a windowless space with white walls and buzzing lights. An officer we didn't know sat behind a desk, clipboard in hand. He didn't look up when we entered. "Equipment malfunction," he said flatly. "Radio interference, atmospheric anomalies, fatigue." Holloway slammed his fist on the table. "Fatigue doesn't move doors. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't whisper our names." The officer didn't blink. "There's no record of an installation at your coordinates. Satellite shows open ocean. You must have been off course." Reeves laughed then, a hollow, broken sound, and the officer finally looked up. "You'll be reassigned," he said. "No further action required." That was it. No reports, no questions, no proof. They erased it like it had never existed. Within a month, Reeves left the service. Carter never made it out of the ward. His mind stayed on that island, whispering back to the voices that called him. Holloway drank himself quiet, haunted until the day he died. And me, I stayed. I told myself it was duty, but really I was afraid of what would happen if I stopped moving. Years later, when the nightmares came back, I searched those coordinates again. Nothing, just ocean. No landmass, no wreckage, not even a reef. It's like the island slipped beneath the waves, taking its dead with it. But sometimes, on clear nights, when I can't sleep, I turn on an old shortwave radio I keep on my desk. Every once in a while, through the static, I still hear it. 3 shorts, 3 longs, 3 shorts. Then a voice, distant and calm. "Unit 6, report." That's when I shut it off. Because I know, wherever that transmission is coming from, it's not over. They're still out there, waiting for the rest of the names. And that's the story, soldiers. Some places were never meant to be found, and some orders should have stayed buried with the war that created them. If you ever hear coordinates that don't exist on any map, don't go looking. Because once you hear the roll call, it never stops. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another classified. Share this with someone who loves haunted war stories. And drop a comment below, where do you think Unit 6 really went? I'm Captain Rebel, signing off. Stay sharp, stay safe, and don't answer when the radio calls your name.